So, I signed the power of attorney. Right there, at my kitchen table, with the pen they brought. I watched my son's face light up, watched my daughter-in-law's shoulders relax. I watched them exchange that look, the one they thought I couldn't see. Relief, victory, maybe even a little guilt buried deep, and I signed anyway. Because by then, I already knew everything. I'd known for 3 weeks. The signing was just theater. My final act of playing the confused, helpless old man they decided I was. Let me back up. It started on a Tuesday morning in late September. I was in my garage in Austin, organizing my fishing gear, when my phone rang. Daniel, my son. He called maybe once a month, usually on Sundays, usually brief. A Tuesday morning call was unusual. Dad, hey, you doing okay? His voice had that careful tone, like he was talking to someone in a hospital bed. I'm fine, son. Just sorting through some tackle boxes. Thinking about hitting Ladybird Lake this weekend. That's good, Dad. Listen, Jennifer and I were talking, and we'd like to come by tomorrow evening, if that works for you. Around 6? I paused. Daniel lived in Houston, about 3 hours away. Jennifer worked at some bank there, compliance or something. They didn't just drop by. Tomorrow? Is everything all right? Yeah, everything's fine. We need to talk to you about something important. Nothing to worry about, we promise. That phrase, nothing to worry about. In my 32 years at the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, that phrase always preceded something worth worrying about. All right, I said slowly. I'll make dinner. No, don't trouble yourself. We'll grab something on the road. We'll see you at 6. He hung up before I could respond. I stood there in my garage, phone in hand, tackle box forgotten. Important. Need to talk. Don't worry. All the words people use when they're about to upend your life. My wife Carol would have known what to make of it. She'd always been better at reading our son than I was. But Carol had been gone for almost 4 years now, and I'd learned to trust my own instincts, honed by decades of following money trails that people thought they'd hidden well enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept running through possibilities. Was Daniel sick? Was Jennifer pregnant? Were they getting divorced? At 2 a.m., I got up and made coffee, sat at my kitchen table in the dark. The house felt too big, like it always did at night. 4 bedrooms for 1 person. Daniel had grown up here, learned to ride his bike in that driveway, built a treehouse in the oak out back that was probably rotting now. I'd worked for the IRS for 32 years, most of it in criminal investigation. I'd tracked money launderers, tax evaders, fraud schemes so elaborate they could have been Hollywood scripts. I'd testified in federal court 47 times. I'd put away people who thought they were untouchable. And here I was, anxious about my own son coming to visit because the rhythm was wrong. The pattern was off. Wednesday came. I cleaned the house, which didn't take long since I kept it pretty tidy anyway. Made sure there were fresh towels in the bathroom, drinks in the fridge. At 6:15, Daniel's Lexus pulled into my driveway. Through the window, I watched them sit in the car for a moment. Jennifer checked her makeup in the visor mirror. Daniel looked at his phone. Neither of them looked happy to be here. I opened the door before they knocked. Hey, you two, come on in. Daniel hugged me, but it was stiff. Jennifer kissed my cheek, smelling of expensive perfume. They came in carrying a leather folio, the kind lawyers use. My stomach tightened. House looks good, Dad, Daniel said, glancing around like he was cataloging everything. How long had it been since he'd been here? 6 months? A year? Can I get you something to drink? I've got that LaCroix Jennifer likes. Water's fine, Jennifer said, setting the folio on my kitchen table. That table where Carol and I had eaten thousands of meals, where Daniel had done his homework, where I'd reviewed case files deep into the night. I got them water, sat down across from them, waited. Daniel cleared his throat. So, Dad, we wanted to talk to you because we've been worried about you living here alone, about your health. My health is fine. Dr. Patterson says I'm in better shape than most men my age. Jennifer leaned forward, her hands folded on the table. She had a way of taking over conversations, of making her words sound more authoritative than they were. Robert, when did you last see Dr. Patterson? 2 months ago. Annual checkup. And did he run a cognitive assessment? I felt something cold settle in my chest. A cognitive what? An assessment, Daniel said. Dad, last month when we talked on the phone, you told me the same story 3 times about the guy at the tackle shop. You didn't remember telling me. I had no memory of this. But then again, we'd talked for maybe 5 minutes. I tell a lot of stories, son. Jennifer's mother went through this, Jennifer continued, her voice soft, practiced, like she'd rehearsed this. The early signs are subtle. Repetition, forgetfulness, confusion about dates or times. I'm not confused about anything. Dad, you're 70 years old. You live alone in a 4-bedroom house. What if you fell? What if you had a medical emergency and no one found you for days? Daniel's voice cracked a little, and I wanted to believe it was genuine concern. I really did. I have Life Alert. I have my phone. I have neighbors. Those neighbors are just as old as you are, Jennifer said. Mrs. Chen is 82. The Hoffmans moved to a retirement community last year. Remember? I didn't remember the Hoffmans moving. But maybe they had. I'd been dealing with my own grief, my own adjustment to living alone. Maybe I'd missed things. Daniel opened the folio. Inside were papers, official-looking documents with dense text. We've been doing some research, Dad, about quality of life for seniors, about planning for the future. And we think it would be a good idea for you to designate someone to help you make decisions. Just in case. Just in case what? In case your health declines, Jennifer said smoothly. In case you need someone to manage your finances, to make medical decisions if you can't. It's called a durable power of attorney. It's just a safety net. I looked at the papers. My eyes, even with reading glasses, couldn't quite make out the small print in the dim kitchen light. And who would this someone be? Me, Daniel said. I'm your son. It makes sense. And Jennifer works in banking. She understands finances. There it was. The thing they'd driven 3 hours to say. They wanted control of my money, my decisions, my life. And they'd wrapped it in concern, in fear, in the idea that I was failing in ways I couldn't see. I should have said no right then. Should have told them I'd think about it, talk to my own lawyer, get a second opinion. But something in me wanted to see where this went. Wanted to understand why they were really here. So I did something I'd done 100 times in investigations. I played along. Let me read these, I said, pulling the documents closer. Of course, Jennifer said too quickly. Take your time. I made a show of reading, of squinting at the words, of looking confused. And while I did, I watched them. Daniel kept glancing at Jennifer. Jennifer kept checking her watch. Neither of them looked at me with love or concern. They looked at me like I was a problem to be solved, a loose end to tie up. This is a lot, I finally said. Can I sleep on it? Maybe talk to my lawyer? Daniel's face fell. Dad, there's really no need to involve lawyers. This is family business. We're trying to help you. Then you won't mind if I take a few days to think about it. Jennifer's smile went tight. Robert, we drove all the way from Houston. We were hoping to finalize this tonight. We've already talked to a financial advisor about the best way to manage your assets, and there are some time-sensitive opportunities that... What time-sensitive opportunities? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. Nothing you need to worry about right now, Daniel said, putting his hand over mine. His palm was sweaty. Just trust us. Okay, Dad? We're looking out for you. Trust. That word hung in the air. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, this boy I'd taught to throw a football and balance a checkbook and drive a car. And I didn't recognize him anymore. All right, I heard myself say. Let me get a pen. I signed, right there, in blue ink, my signature on 3 separate documents. Jennifer witnessed. Daniel notarized. He'd gotten his notary license, apparently. It was all very official, very legal, very final. They left 20 minutes later, taking the papers with them, leaving me with copies that they said were for my records. Daniel hugged me at the door. This is the right thing, Dad. You'll see. We're going to take such good care of you. I watched their taillights disappear down my street. Then I went inside, locked the door, and sat in my living room in the dark for a long time. Because here's what they didn't know. I hadn't had a mini-stroke. I hadn't repeated stories. Dr. Patterson had given me a clean bill of health, including a cognitive screening that I'd passed with flying colors. He'd even joked that I had a sharper memory than he did, and I knew exactly what Daniel and Jennifer were up to. Because 3 weeks earlier, I'd gotten a phone call from Chase Bank's fraud department. There'd been an attempt to access my account from an unfamiliar device in Houston. The attempt had been blocked, but they wanted to verify I hadn't authorized it. I hadn't. I'd thanked them, hung up, and immediately logged into all my accounts to check for any irregularities. That's when I saw it. Someone had run a credit inquiry on me, not a soft inquiry, which happens sometimes for pre-approved credit card offers. A hard inquiry, the kind you only get when you're actually applying for credit. Except I hadn't applied for anything. I'd spent 32 years at the IRS. I knew what fraud looked like. I knew how investigations worked. So I started my own. First, I pulled my full credit report from all 3 bureaus. That's when I found it. A new credit card in my name, opened 5 weeks earlier. Capital One, $25,000 limit. $3,000 already charged to it. Minimum payments made. The card had been mailed to an address in Houston that I didn't recognize. Next, I checked my property records at the county clerk's office. Someone had ordered a title report on my house. An appraisal had been commissioned. When I called the appraisal company, pretending to be confirming the appointment, they told me it had been scheduled by a Daniel Morrison, who'd identified himself as the property owner's son, helping with estate planning. Estate planning. For a man who wasn't dead, wasn't dying, wasn't incapacitated. I dug deeper. Daniel's social media was mostly private, but Jennifer's wasn't. She'd been posting pictures from expensive restaurants, a weekend trip to Napa, designer handbags. All in the past 6 months. All tagged with hashtags like blessed and living our best life. Nothing criminal about that, except I happened to know that Daniel's consulting business had been struggling. He'd mentioned it in passing last Christmas, said they were tightening their belts. These weren't the purchases of people tightening their belts. I used some old connections, people I'd worked with who'd moved on to other agencies. Quietly, carefully, I asked around. I learned that Daniel's LLC had filed for bankruptcy 8 months ago, that he owed $180,000 to various creditors, that Jennifer had been put on administrative leave from her bank job pending an investigation into some discrepancy in loan documentation, though the details were sealed. They were drowning in debt, and I, with my paid-off house worth $400,000, my retirement savings of $150,000, my life insurance policy, my Social Security income, looked like a life raft. So when Daniel called that Tuesday morning, I already knew why. I just needed to confirm it. Needed to see how far they'd go. And now I knew. They'd go all the way. They'd invent health problems, gaslight me about my own memory, manipulate me into signing over control of my entire life. They'd probably already planned what they'd do next. Sell the house, move my money into accounts they controlled, maybe even push for guardianship if the POA wasn't enough. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I could have called the police right then. Identity theft, fraud, forgery on the credit card application. But here's the thing about working financial crimes for 3 decades. You learn to build airtight cases. You learn to be patient. You learn that the best time to strike is when you have all the evidence, when there's no room for excuses or explanations. So I waited. Over the next 2 weeks, I documented everything. I set up alerts on all my accounts. I installed a security camera system around my house, hidden but comprehensive. I started recording my phone calls with Daniel, which is legal in Texas as long as one party consents, and I was that party. And they didn't disappoint. 4 days after signing the POA, Daniel called. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. How are you feeling?" "I'm fine, son." Good. Listen, Jennifer and I were looking at your financial situation, just to get a sense of where everything stands. We noticed you've got most of your savings just sitting in a regular savings account. The interest rate is terrible. We'd like to move some of that into investments that'll work harder for you. What kind of investments? Well, there's this fund that Jennifer knows about through her work. It's gotten great returns, really solid. We're thinking of moving about $50,000 to start. $50,000? My stomach turned. I don't know, Daniel. I'm pretty conservative with my money. Dad, you're 70. You've got to make your money work for you. Trust me on this. That word again. Trust. Let me think about it, I said. Sure. But don't wait too long. This opportunity won't be available forever. I hung up and immediately checked that fund Jennifer had mentioned. It didn't exist. Or rather, it had existed, briefly, as part of a pump and dump scheme that the SEC had shut down 2 years ago. How did Jennifer know about it? Through her work at the bank? Was that why she was on leave? A week later, Daniel called again. Dad, we've been talking, and we really think it's time to consider selling the house. It's just too much for you to maintain, and the market's hot right now. We could get you set up in a nice assisted living place, something with activities and meal service. I don't want to move. I know change is hard, but you'd be so much happier. And think about the equity, Dad. $400,000, give or take. That could fund a really comfortable situation for you for years. $400,000 that they could manage, that they could skim from, that could disappear into investments that didn't exist or paid off their debts. I'll think about it, I said again. I could hear the frustration in his voice. Why do you keep saying that? We're trying to help you. I know, son. I just need time. But time was running out, and I knew it. The credit card bill was coming due. Their creditors were circling. Desperation makes people stupid, makes them rush, makes them sloppy. Sure enough, 10 days after I'd signed the POA, I got another call from Chase's fraud department. Someone had tried to initiate a wire transfer from my savings account, $50,000, to an account in Houston. The bank had blocked it because it didn't match my normal transaction patterns. But they needed to verify. That wasn't me, I told them, and I know exactly who it was. That's when I decided to act. I called Daniel. Son, I've been thinking about what you said, about the house, about assisted living. I think you're right. I think it's time. The relief in his voice was palpable. That's great, Dad. That's really great. We'll come up this weekend and start looking at places. Actually, why don't you come Wednesday? I've got some paperwork I want to go over with you. Wednesday works. We'll be there at 6. I spent the next few days preparing. I contacted a lawyer, a good one, who specialized in elder law and financial abuse. I printed out every piece of evidence I'd gathered. Bank statements, credit reports, phone records, property searches. I made a timeline, cross-referenced with dates and amounts. I contacted my old colleagues at IRSCI, let them know what I'd found. They couldn't officially investigate based on my say-so, but they could be ready if I needed them. And I set up a little recording system in my kitchen, video and audio, completely legal since it was my own home. Wednesday came. 6 o'clock. Daniel and Jennifer pulled into my driveway. They came to the door with smiles, with flowers for some reason, with that leather folio again. Come in, I said. I made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table. I poured coffee. My hands were steady, even though my heart was racing. So, Dad, what paperwork did you want to discuss? Daniel asked. I reached under the table and pulled out my own folder, much thicker than theirs. Well, I wanted to go over some financial documents. Make sure we're all on the same page. I opened the folder. The first page was the credit card statement, the one in my name that I'd never applied for. Jennifer's face went pale. This is interesting, I said, keeping my voice conversational. A Capital One card in my name, opened September 8th. I didn't apply for this card, but someone did, using my social security number and a Houston address. I slid the paper toward them. That's identity theft. That's a federal crime. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it. Dad, I can explain. I'm not finished. I pulled out the next document. Here's the wire transfer attempt from my Chase account. $50,000 to an account registered to Morrison Financial Services, LLC. That's your company, Daniel. The one that filed for bankruptcy. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Jennifer stood up. Robert, you're confused. We were just trying to— Sit down, I said, and something in my voice made her comply. I said I'm not finished. I pulled out more papers. Property appraisal, commissioned without my knowledge. Title search, ordered without my permission. And here's my favorite. Phone records showing 17 calls between you and various real estate agents discussing listing my house. My house. The one I still live in. The one you have no authority to sell, power of attorney or not. The room was silent except for the sound of paper rustling as I laid out evidence like a prosecutor building a case. Because that's exactly what I was doing. Here's what's going to happen, I said, folding my hands on top of the stack of documents. You're going to cancel that credit card and pay off the full balance. You're going to return the power of attorney to me, notarized revocation, today. You're going to cease all attempts to access my accounts, sell my property, or interfere with my life in any way. And if we don't? Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. I pulled out one more document. Then I file these police reports. Identity theft, attempted fraud, financial exploitation of an elderly person. That last one is a felony in Texas, carries up to 10 years. And Jennifer, I don't know what you did at that bank, but I'm guessing the investigation into you would get a lot more interesting if local police start asking questions. Daniel's face had gone from pale to red. You've been investigating us? Your own son? You've been stealing from me, I replied, my voice harder now. My own son, the boy I raised, the man I trusted. You looked at me and saw a mark, saw an easy target, saw someone you could manipulate and rob. So yes, I investigated, because that's what I did for 32 years at the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. I followed money. I built cases against people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. I put them in federal prison. I leaned forward. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I was so old, so senile, so helpless that you could just waltz in here with fake health concerns and steal everything I've worked for? We're in debt, Daniel said suddenly, his voice breaking. We needed help. We thought you had more than enough, that you wouldn't miss it. So you decided to lie to me about my health? To gaslight me? To steal my identity? Because you couldn't just ask? Would you have given us $180,000? Jennifer shot back. No, I said flatly. I wouldn't have. Not to pay off debts you incurred living beyond your means. Not to fund a lifestyle you couldn't afford. Not when you were already drowning and you just keep spending. I stood up, gathered my evidence. You have until Friday to get me the notarized POA revocation and proof that the credit card is paid and closed. If I don't have both by 5 p.m. Friday, I go to the police. And if you ever, and I mean ever, try something like this again, there won't be a warning. There'll just be charges. They left. Jennifer was crying. Daniel looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. They didn't say goodbye. I watched them drive away, and this time, I didn't sit in the dark. I turned on every light in my house. I made myself dinner. I called my lawyer and told him what had happened. He said I'd handled it perfectly, that I'd probably saved myself years of legal battles and financial devastation. Friday at 3 p.m., I got an email. Scanned documents. POA revocation. Notarized. Credit card cancellation notice. Balance paid in full. A brief note from Daniel. We're sorry. We'll pay you back the $3,000. It might take time, but we will. I haven't heard from them since. That was 6 weeks ago. Some nights I sit in my kitchen and think about what could have happened. If I'd been less observant, less trained, less suspicious, if I'd trusted blindly the way a father is supposed to trust his son, I'd have lost everything. My home, my savings, my independence, my dignity. Other nights, I think about what I lost anyway. My relationship with my son, whatever hope I had of growing old with family nearby, with grandchildren someday, with Sunday dinners and Christmas mornings, that's gone now, maybe forever. But here's what I gained. Knowledge. The knowledge that I'm not helpless, not weak, not the confused old man they tried to make me believe I was. I survived 32 years investigating criminals. I survived losing my wife. And I survived my own son trying to rob me blind. I'm still in my house. I still go fishing at Lady Bird Lake on weekends. I still have coffee with Mrs. Chen next door, and she's sharp as a tack at 82, thank you very much. I still do my crossword puzzles and my Sudoku, and I still remember every detail of every case I ever worked. I'm 70 years old, and I'm not anybody's fool. The security cameras are still up. The account alerts are still active. I check my credit report every week, not because I'm paranoid, but because I learned something important. Trust has to be earned, even from family, especially from family. Last week I updated my will. Everything goes to charity now. Animal shelter, literacy program, scholarship fund at UT Austin. Organizations that help elder abuse victims, because I know now how many people aren't as lucky as I was, who don't have the skills or knowledge to fight back. Daniel doesn't know yet. Maybe he'll never know. Maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is this. I stood my ground. I protected what was mine. I used every skill I'd learned over 3 decades to defend myself against the 2 people who should have been defending me. And I won. Some people might say I was too harsh, that I should have shown mercy, that family forgives family. But those people haven't sat across a kitchen table from their own child and watched them lie about your health, your mind, your future. They haven't seen their own signature forged on documents meant to steal everything you've built. I showed them mercy. I could have destroyed them, could have pressed charges that would have followed them forever, could have made sure everyone knew what they tried to do. Instead, I gave them a chance to walk away. Whether they take it, whether they learn from it, whether they become better people, that's up to them now. As for me, I'm done playing the helpless old man. I'm done being underestimated. I'm done pretending that age means weakness or that white hair means empty head. I spent my career following the money, finding the truth, bringing people to justice. Turns out, retirement doesn't change that. The skills don't fade. The instincts don't dull. And if anyone else, family or stranger, ever tries to take advantage of me again, well, I'll be ready. Because once an investigator, always an investigator. And the best investigations are the ones where you already know the ending before the suspects do. I signed those papers. I played my role. And then I took my life back. That's not revenge. That's just justice. And after 32 years at the IRS, I know the difference.